So, Chris, you were out there this week. Your thoughts on Drake Maye and the Patriots offense?
Yeah, I was actually heartened and encouraged by what I saw. I thought of the sessions I've attended, and I only attended two in terms of the OTAs. The two that I attended, this was definitely his best. And I thought he was decisive. I thought he was accurate. I thought he looked in command out there running what was, the Josh McDaniels offense, not the Friday everybody went nuts when Josh told you, like, we're installing a bunch of plays I have no familiarity with. This looked like the Josh McDaniels offense, and I thought Drake Maye looked really good in this practice. And I thought Demario Douglas popped as well. No pun intended there. And that is encouraging because the more I thought about it, and the way we look at the wide receiver position for the Patriots and the lens we're looking at it through, I think is probably based on the rest of the league and to a degree what we've seen the last couple of years. But you can kind of forget that when you think about Josh and the receivers they've had in that offense, the slot guys really are their number one receivers. You don't need some crazy physically talented number one wide receiver, because if the offense is working correctly and you have a good slot guy, you'll get number one type production out of the slot. And Demario Douglas looked really good. And afterwards he talked to us, and he really was glowing when talking about the offense. He said, I love this offense. And he talked about watching film of guys that have been in it in the past, like Julian Edelman. So that's something that maybe we have to sort of step back and reconsider. I'm not telling you their wide receiver core is great. It's not. But I don't know that they need it to be great in this offense if the skill guys can pick it up. And chief among those guys is Drake Maye.
Did what you see this week change your outlook on the team?
My outlook on the team, I mean, I think I have them at 7 wins. So I would say no. I mean, if they got to 8, I wouldn't be surprised. But did it make me go from 7 to 10 or Washington Commanders 12? No, absolutely not. I mean, they don't have pads on. You can't evaluate the offensive line. And while I saw progress and I like the way Drake Maye looked, I do still think that there's a talent deficiency for them, primarily on offense. But defensively, again, when the pads come on, we can talk about the pass rush, and it's great. And Vrabel's talked about this. I mean, every play is like 3rd and 10, so the pass rushers know what's coming. And I know they were last in the league in sacks last year, but also they got ran on completely last year. And I don't know that's going to be different until I see them with pads and it looks different. And they brought in Spillane. But other than that, I mean, I think their linebacker core is very susceptible. And that was before Tavai got hurt. I'm not really impressed outside of Spillane about what they have at linebacker, and I'm not sure they are either. I haven't heard this. I'm just extrapolating. The fact they have Marte Mapu working at linebacker, to me, says something about him and his future on the team, but it also says something about that group, that they're searching for options because they know it's not great behind Spillane.
Chris, we spent a good amount of time earlier in the week going over some of Vrabel's comments when he was asked both about Steph Diggs, Efton Chisholm,
Chisholm the third.
Okay, and it led to a bigger sort of discussion about the command Vrabel has over the team right now versus where they were a year ago. And most people seem to sense or feel some sort of different vibe down there. And do you share that sentiment? Like, do you notice the difference?
Yeah, I noticed the difference. I mean, there's certainly a difference. It's interesting. I'd have to think about it. In terms of last year, I mean, I do think they practiced more efficiently and with a higher pace than last year. I'll certainly give you that. To me, the difference is based on the end of last season to now, not necessarily the last year at this time. Now, there is a difference. Last year at this time to this year now. But the real difference, I think, is the way things were at the end of last season. There's a lot of buy-in of Vrabel. I think that they're very big on the culture thing down there, and guys are buying into it. He has sort of the Pied Piper thing going. I said this when they hired him. I mean, in an ideal world with Vrabel, he is the best of both worlds of Belichick and Mayo. Because Mayo did connect with certain guys last year, and there were people talking about, oh, he's a player's coach. And you hear that about Vrabel, and he's out there wearing a number 25 penny and playing basically middle linebacker and 3/4 speed drills and following the eyes of Drake Maye and covering guys and doing all that stuff. But he's also like an adult in the room with coaching experience. And you see the way he's handling the Steph Diggs thing. It's not quite as far as Belichick would go, but it's a more buttoned up operation than it was under Mayo. That's for sure.
Okay.
So it feels tepid.
Go ahead, Murray.
Yeah, go ahead.
It
Jim.
just sounds C-y, the whole thing, all around.
I mean, I'll say this. The culture thing they're building, I applaud them. And I think it's going to pay off, as it has in Detroit. But did it pay off in Detroit immediately?
Oh, no.
Or was it, okay, it was like when they got the talent, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So to me, they're still talent deficient. I think the culture he's building is significant. But I don't think the culture he's building is going to take them from a 4-win team to a 10-win team.
Okay,
it's going to be about talent.
But they've just hired 2 new analytics guys.
Yes, they have.
I just think they're going to go all in on the analytics side. I think it's driven by John Kraft. I think Jonathan Kraft is an analytics guy. I think he fancies himself that. I think he's one of those guys that goes to the Sloan conference and blah, blah, blah. And when the Patriots become hyper analytic, that's who I'm going to blame. It's about John Kraft. John Kraft, I mean, again, the analysts believe big time in going for 2 versus 1. And
Absolutely.
I mean, you remember the thing in Tennessee where the Patriots went for 1 versus 2 and John was all hacked off. I think that's all because John listens to, is of the analytics world, and those guys would say, you go for 2 there almost every time out of every time.
Now, as much as we have universally railed against the nerds in sports, you do agree that there should be like a sprinkling, or at least some, right? So it feels to me like, based on here, the way that Bert Breer tells it, at least during Belichick's era, especially towards the end, there was none. Like, if you compare them to like the Eagles and other teams that are more forward thinking in the league, like they're stuck in the past. You got to have some.
I guess. I don't know.
I think you're okay without it if you have a guy who knows what he's doing.
Seriously.
And so I was just going to ask, did you hear the Vrabel answer when he was asked about the hire and the first hire in the analytics department earlier in the week?
I heard it. It didn't strike. I didn't.
Okay, so here's the part that unless I heard it wrong.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that he said on the headset on game day, it's going to be just me and Stretch.
Yeah, right.
In other words, I don't want that nerd in my ear. That's how I took it.
Well, he doesn't want a team of freaking pencil pushers in his ear.
But
He wants one guy.
I mean, it's the only thing that stuck out to me in that comment. He played it down the middle for the most part, but someone asked him about having him on headset. I think that was part of the question. And Vrabel said, no, that's going to be just me and Stretch. And his buddy Stretch. So I immediately heard that and went, oh, he doesn't want that clown on the headset during the game.
I'll tell you, Murray, in football, I really don't believe in the analytics. Like, what have they come up with? Go for 2 versus 1? Go for it on 4th and short? I hate that.
And how many times do you see a team get itself into a bad situation on the scoreboard because they went for it on 4th down instead of just kicking the field goal?
I mean, it's really not all that involved, and I think they have it wrong. Alex Barth said one day that he was talking to a guy on an analytics staff for the NFL, and he told Barth, we purposely don't look at the score or the time on the clock when we analyze these situations. We just make them all equal, which is so flawed, I can't even tell you.
Of course.
But the game you think a 2-point conversion in the first quarter is the same as it is with 45 seconds left in the fourth quarter? You don't think players squeeze the ball a little tighter? Or just they talk about just completely ignoring the human element that these things ultimately come down to? I think they have it wrong. They can all go F themselves.
Yeah, so on the field, I'm with you. But so, like, this guy today that they hired was a personnel analytics coordinator. So I look at the way the Eagles draft, right? So maybe they're applying, I don't know, whatever nerd formulas there are to draft so well and find someone like, or Cooper DeJean or something like that. I know he was a higher draft pick, but, he got all overlooked by other teams. So if you can apply whatever it is to your drafting, and maybe you can hit on a wide receiver for once in the last 30 years. Like, I'd like that.
Yeah,
I don't need the 4th and 1, 4th and short, always going for 2. That makes me crazy. But there has to be maybe a little involved in your personnel department in your drafting.
Well, then you do something different at that position, that's for sure. So whatever it takes, I'm with you on that.